Welcome back! Eternal Dragon here with an update to my Shadow God build. We've made it to Shadow God 3.0. This is the Chaos 35 variant of my Shadow God build, now with some primordial gear and adjusted rings after the universal ring change. So let's take a look at what we've got here. You'll find that most of it is the same, but upgraded. So we have a primordial live wire and a chaotic live wire. The primordial one we're using mainly for mobbing. That is due to the enchantment on there, with the singularity dealing 1475 damage after each reload. That's a very, very easy enchantment to trigger, and you'll find that it pulls mob groups in towards each other very, very easily. And then your chain damage coming off of your live wire when you're swinging hits everything. On top of it, that 1475 damage is actually a scaling number. You'll never see 1475. You're often seeing a million or more off of that enchantment. So you come in, you swing, you hit the mobs, you pull them all together, and if you swing again, hey look, we've got Echo over here. So just massive extra damage procs between the two of these, just clearing out mob groups ridiculously quickly. Then we switch over to the chaotic live wire because we're just trying to empty this one down to magazine size 1, and then you run in and smack the boss. Now you get an absolutely huge melee damage boost on this particular weapon. The lower your magazine size is, the biggest boost that you can get is at 1 magazine in the clip, and it's for about 4 times your melee damage. So of course you want to equip something fantastic in terms of melee damage. Here we've got the Wailing Banshee at 1600. Sorry, at 1600 damage there. You see, not just at 1600. So that is your boss variation, and you'll find that if you don't just basically one-hit a boss, you will apply a crazy contagion DOT that just drains the boss's life out, and then they're done anyway. And that is what you saw happen to the raid bosses. So this is, of course, the original Contagion build, at least as far as I know, here in Wonderlands. So you might have seen my video before, UTD Returns, Unleash the Dragon, that is. This is a combo that was from Borderlands 3 that we've found out how to bring over here to Wonderlands. Additionally, we do have a liquid cooling. It has been sort of rebuffed. It's totally worth using again on the build. It is going to be for whenever you need to do gun damage. You just switch over to this thing. It's great for killing Bernadette when you're fighting Dragon Lord, other things like that where you just need something that you can shoot really quickly, do some gun damage at really long range very accurately. Also works fantastic for any of the raid boss puzzles that you need to try to figure out, you know, like shooting out the yellow rune or doing the skeet shooting for the green rune. So that's our 3 guns, and of course our chaotic Wailing Banshee with Echo. And you see we've enchanted here, you know, lightning damage, elemental damage increased there. On this one, singularity, we talked about that. This one, you don't even really need to change it. You can switch this up to something else if you want to. You know, elemental damage is fine there, and that's because we actually also do have a few other melee weapons here for you to mess around with, just for fun. We've got a volatile, extra melee damage. I do find that the chaotic does more damage on bosses in general, but this can be a lot of fun just to mess around with this volatile one with the extra melee damage for bosses and badasses. Sorry, and then we also have some salt and batteries on there for you to mess around with. We got a different type of the volatile Banshee for you to enchant. Start fresh if you want to. And then you see both of these are going to be fun ones. We got an Echo one, we got a Caustic one on there. If you don't know what these things are, these are the new melee weapon from DLC 2, and they are just absolutely crazy awesome at creating a giant whirlwind around enemies, at which point you can pretty much guarantee that your contagion will be applied multiple times, and then you'll just see the damage go off like crazy there. So over on this side still, we have a mood ring here, melee damage, melee crit chance, and here we have a shark lesson ring. This is a quest reward ring. You want to go get one of these. These things are absolutely fantastic. You can see it as a rotating melee damage bonus, 15%. Goes through all the different elements, completely worth wearing one of these on any melee build. Now we have the new armor from the DLC. I have this with area damage, ability damage, and movement speed. The movement speed, of course, giving us an extra buff as well due to swift death. Sorry, getting back to here. You see, this actually gives us 39% additional status effect damage, and a kill skill that our status effect chance is increased by 65% here. Is that 65% on this one? Yeah. It does go higher on the Primordial. I believe it's 75% on that one. Cursed Wit, we all know this shield well. You get hit, your shield's down, you do 100% more damage to whoever you're standing close to. That is, of course, fantastic for any melee build. Over here, we are using a Frenzied Wrath. Now, this is just to pump up our companion damage, but really what we were looking for is that Clawbringer Lightning with all damage, and the status effect damage on this as well to pump up the contagion damage for if you don't kill something in one hit. And then we have a Buffmeister here. This one is a cryo, but we have one in each of the different types. And the real reason to have one of each of the different varieties is for when you're doing co-op with your friends, so that you can be running a Buffmeister that will apply a DOT that is not going to be the same type of damage that your friends are doing, because then you can still actually see your DOT come off. Unfortunately, if you match damage with your friends, the chances of them canceling your DOT is very, very high. And that's because an enemy can only carry one type of DOT at a time for each element, so if somebody else applies a DOT, yours goes away. Over here in the skills, we are using From the Shadows, Stabomancer's favorite. And, you know, the critical hit damage that you lose on this, it doesn't mean anything, because when you're in from the Shadows, everything's a crit, and that just means you're going to absolutely destroy whatever you hit, especially if you make sure to empty out the clip on your live wire first. So over on this side, we have extra thunder damage, and then 5 points into Dragon Aura to increase our elemental damage even further. Over here, 5 points into Arsenal, just to boost up the melee, spell, and gun damage as much as possible. And then 2 here, 3 here, because we're not really relying on the speed for damage. What we are doing is pumping up follow-up, so that our next melee attack is absolutely huge, and that's another reason to fire your gun and hit people a bunch of times. And then over here, we have Potent Poisons, status effect damage and duration to increase the UTD time, or sorry, contagion time. And exploit the weakness here so that for every type of dot on the enemy, they actually take more damage. Over here, sneak attack buffing our critical hit damage a little bit, elusive, just so that we can have a little bit more survivability. 3 out of 3 in contagion. If you can get yourself 6 out of 3, this will be an even crazier contagion build, but you really don't need 6 out of 3 for this build. It's just if you're going for that meta that people are really into right now, you can go that direction. We have 5 out of 5 in 1000 Cuts to stack up the extra 25% damage at maximum stacks. And then this is fantastic again for coming in on the bosses for those super duper hits. Your melee crits apply a random status effect. Status effect 10% of melee damage, and Alchemical Agent, just insane for trying to spread contagion. Attach those DOTs. Over here, we have Executioner's Blade as our capstone. And you'll see all these little purple swords just slamming down into enemies whenever you're shooting your gun. It's just a bunch of extra damage that's a lot of fun to have. There are some combos in the game that can turn this into one of the most damaging capstones that there is, but we are not focusing on that as our primary damage for this build. It is just extra damage that is fun to have. Now, taking a look at our hero points, we have gone 48 out of 48 into crit damage, 25 out of 40 into critical chance, so that we get 30% there. You see your 47.5 critical damage buff there. Didn't really care about spell cooldowns. Boom, big status effect damage. You can spend more here if you want to. Again, you don't need to, but you can. Really, if you're pushing that contagion meta. I like to just see that 25% on this build, so I spent a few points here, get that 25% health and ward, and then pump our attunement a little bit just so we can go in and out of From the Shadows more often. Up here, I mean, this is just what you happen to get from the gear. If you want to get gear that moves these numbers around a little bit, it's not going to change too much. But you will see that over on this side, you can get a lot more time in from the shadows. If you were able to move a lot of the power over to this side, your critical hit chance would go up as well. Again, not anything you really need to worry about here. They're great how they are. So, that is it for the build. I hope you guys like the update. I had a lot of fun putting this one together. And, you know, this is just absolutely top tier. I can't say enough about how much fun this build is to play, how great it is that you can really fight anything in the game with this one. So, if you enjoyed this, guys, don't forget, like, comment, subscribe, you know, I don't know, hit the bell or whatever the heck it is that people say on this. But above all, just have fun with it. Happy gaming. Save will be in the Discord, and we'll see you live on Twitter, folks. Until next time.